we must serve our families. But then, from a practical point of view, from a practical perspective, sometimes we may feel guilty to say no to some of the ministry demands at church that we may have. But how do we go about discerning what is our spiritual duty and what exactly is maybe it's it's a right activity, but maybe it isn't right for this particular time or season. So how exactly do you differentiate between this is my spiritual duty, it's a non-negotiable, and this thing is right, I should do this, but maybe not at this time?
Yeah, let me just say a little bit more about uh, God being number one or not. The thing is this, you see, when you are giving positions, it means you are evaluating what comes first, what comes second, and so on. And when we started this discussion, we said there are certain biblical foundations that are non-negotiable. And God's place in our lives is non-negotiable. And because it's non-negotiable, you do not go to, number one is about evaluating what is the best. And so you don't come into a position where you are seeking to evaluate what is best for your life. Rather, you are saying the word that you used, foundational. What is this foundational principle? The foundational principle is that God overrides everything. And also, God must feel everything. And He is therefore beyond number one, number two, and so on. And also, just remember that God operates outside our space because He's the one who created the space. He's the one who created this time that we have. And you therefore can't put Him in our space, in our time, and He feels everything. And that is basically what it is. Now, coming to your question about saying no to demands, the demands upon our lives are plenty. And you cannot go fulfilling everything like a Superman. It's just not possible. So what do you do? As a family and as an individual, you must set boundaries. The Apostle Paul, in doing this, he talks about the fact that we are to be men of integrity and also men who do the right thing all the time. And so he says this in, is it Second Timothy, sorry, Second Corinthians it is, and chapter 1 and verse 12. It's very instructive what he says. He says this, for our boast is this, the testimony of our conscience, that we behaved in the world with simplicity and godly sincerity, not on earthly wisdom, but the grace of God, and supremely so toward you. So this is about, when he says toward you, it's about dealing with others. And he says when he therefore starts dealing with others and all the other aspects external to himself, he applies two principles. And the two principles are on the basis of godly sincerity. And that godly sincerity means he has measured himself and measured himself in order to see what he can do and what he cannot do. So it's godly to say no to things that will impact negatively upon your life, impact negatively upon those that you love. And also, you can say no when it's things that are above you, things that you are not comfortable with, things that you do not know. You cannot go and address yourself to do things for which I'm not a lawyer. She's a lawyer, but I will never pretend, no matter how for over 30 years I've been hearing I talk about law principles, sometimes they still confuse me up to this stage. So I'm not trained to be like that. And I never ask her to do things engineering because that is not what we are. So even in the context of the home, in the context of the marriage, and even the context of what we ought to do in church, we must just fill our space. So the Apostle Paul, this is what he says, the testimony of his conscience. And secondly, he says he has done all this with simplicity and with godly sincerity. So be sincere about yourself, with simplicity of heart, and with a conscience that will not condemn you. You say, this is my space, and I cannot go beyond this. And in other words, God expects us to do the very best of anything he places on our lap. We must execute it to the greatest of our ability. So we must be the best husbands, the best wives, and then it means we're going to be the best hosts. And we are going to entertain strangers in our home to the greatest of our ability. Remember, I've said to our ability. So you don't go, if your house can only contain so many people, you don't go inviting the whole world to come and spend a night in your home. Where are you going to put them? You can't ask people who attend to come and eat one lump of shima. That's mocking them. So you do what God has called you to do. So there is something to be said about saying no, something to be said about setting boundaries with a clear conscience and simplicity of heart and godly sincerity.
Thank you so much. I got married 102 days ago today, so I'm learning a lot from this conversation. Now, more on the practical side, but now on mutual support, on self-care, and also individual identity within a marriage for couples. What daily or weekly rituals would you advise couples put in place to be able to ensure that each person in the marriage feels seen, they feel supported, and that they're not just there to fulfill one duty or the other?
So in a marriage, first of all, there is husband and wife. And what brings us together is our love for one another. So the first thing is you must express your love for one another. And that expression of love can be done in several ways. Sometimes it's in little things that people outside your marriage may think, this is nonsensical, but you understand each other. It's expressing of love sometimes is about complimenting one another. And sometimes it's just appreciating the fact that this is the person that God has given you. That is one. The second thing is about playing your God-given roles in the home. And show one another that you are out to try to ensure that what God has placed on your lap, you will want to do. And for your husband, it is to rule in the home with love. And let them see all this being expressed. The third thing is about communicating. And communication is key. Now, it's not just about communicating, just since everybody says in marriage people must communicate. So I've said good morning to you, and I've said how are you? No. Communicating is what is deeply seated in you, being able to express what you are, how you are feeling, and what you want the other person to understand. And so when you say good morning in the morning, it's not just waking up, good morning, and off you go. You want to pause and to be able to know that you are feeling something for this person, and that's what you are expressing. And that communication is felt. You know, when you are communicating, there is also something that people say that sometimes communication is non-verbal. And yes, it can be non-verbal. But non-verbal communication is when the verbal communication is not possible. But when the verbal communication, you must express it. But above all these things, you know, a family that prays together will stay together. It is the expression of worship in the home and the practical aspects of worship must be seen to be done in the home with real meaning. And they must not be mechanical. That worship is about studying God's word together, reading it together. It's about praying together. And also, above all these things, all the other means of expressing your worship to God, all the elements of worship must be there. Sometimes you must just come together and just sing. So let us sing this. What's your favorite hymn? Let us sing this hymn together. How you sing the hymn together? The other aspect is, which is also about worship, is our service to God. Now, in marriage, you might find yourself, and that's what happens mostly, that your gifts are complementary to each other. You will not have the same gifts. And so you try to get to your spouse's gift to find out how they are doing and try to help them in very practical ways of how to develop that gift that they have. If your husband is a preacher, you tell him how the sermon came out. And you tell him how he is ministering even to you as an individual. If your wife is just good at hospitality in the home, remind her once in a while, you know, I haven't seen you inviting anybody home, or when I invited, you didn't seem to pay attention to the visitor, and so on. Or when she has cooked a nice meal, you tell her that meal. You people say to each other, what do you say, dear?
Babe.
Babe. Yeah, it's babe. B-A-B-E. Babe. That meal was fantastic. And so, I'm going on to another practical aspect. It's about complementing each other, especially in terms of how God is using us in terms of our giftedness. Those are some of the practical things that you do. And also, you ensure that you are looking after each other.
Thank you so much. I'll give the next one to Mrs. Stali. But before I do, I'd like to thank all those who are viewing us right now, live from Facebook, from our YouTube channels. Please like, please subscribe, and please follow the pages. It really goes a long way in making sure that this word reaches a vast number of people. I see Priscilla Walia Chanda says this is a great discussion. She's enjoying it. But Mrs. Stali, we often talk about balance in marriage, but sometimes we are faced with seasons where the balance has to lean on one side in the marriage. Maybe in this particular season, maybe my wife is going to school, and so things will lean more towards her and less towards me, or different situations we may be faced with. Maybe work becomes very busy for me, or the ministry I'm serving in at church is very busy. But sometimes this balance may be distorted and may lean towards one side. How can couples go about navigating this space, and also how can they recover from it after the balance is restored?
Okay, so, excuse me, as with everything, for you to be successful in whatever you're handling, you need to be intentional. Talk about how you divide the time that you have. Talking about seasons, for us that are wives, there comes a time when you have small children in the home. So clearly, you need to balance your attention to your husband and you need to balance your attention to the children. When the children are particularly small, there's more time demanded of you in terms of taking care of their respective needs. But in taking care of those needs, you're not neglecting your husband. So basically, for those of us that have been wives and mothers, and at the same time juggling careers, one had to decide what was priority at what time. So, for instance, being a lawyer is quite a demanding career. One had to stop and think, how am I going to take care of my husband, take care of my children, while ensuring that my work does not suffer? So, for a person like me, for instance, I opted to serve in the public sector because I found that in terms of the demands of the office, I'll be better able to manage my being a young wife and a young mother better if I served in a space where working hours were well defined and I could know that I'll be required to be at work from this time to that time, and I wasn't necessarily required to carry work over home. So one has to deliberately decide what is it that they want to achieve in their home as well as in their career. And once you have come up with a proper balance, and prayerfully so, you'll find that things will just flow. And when you are a wife and a mother, the issue of your career taking priority ought not to arise. You should know what is the most critical role that God has given you. Yes, it's important to rise in the office, in the career space, but it should not be at the expense of the welfare of your family. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Uncle George.
You want me to add? Yeah, I think in all these things, it's this. One, ensure that you are setting aside quality time for your family and for your wife specifically. Number two, whatever you do, you must seek God's kingdom together. And then the third aspect is prioritize unity and love for yourselves, so that this aspect of, at any one time this is popping up and you're failing to juggle your life, and another thing is popping up, you're failing to therefore go there. Even as a husband, you should not let your career, your ambitions take precedence over your wife and family. That should never happen. And also, these aspects of, our service to God, you must be able to show that as you are seeking God's kingdom and you are seeking to serve God, it is not in complete detriment to your family. And therefore, there will be times in your life when certain aspects of your life are demanding more. Now, when you haven't done these things properly, you forget what your role is in the home and what your responsibility is to your wife and to your children. There will be times, yes, when you need to give more attention, sometimes, say, to your child. But this doesn't negate your role. It doesn't. And also, uh, there will never be a situation where I will love my children or any particular child more than my wife. And you see, this is where now we get back to that foundational principle. Uh, you will not love your wife more than you will love God, because God is over all. And God therefore says your wife comes first. So, in whatever sphere of life you find yourself, and when these things pop up and they sort of demand more than their fair share, you keep your head in the right place. You are a husband. You keep your head in the right place. In the second place is your children. And even your service in the church, as you serve God, you must get to a situation where your wife is now feeling, yeah, my husband has got no time for me. That is impossible. That is not marriage. And you must never come to a point where she must complain and say, my husband, his attention toward me has waned.